Welcome to another episode of Nerdbox. It's always been on my list of things to get. With the news of the live-action movie and finding it on sale at a local bookstore, I was determined to get it now. Unfortunately, Kobo offered a better deal, so I might get a physical copy later on. I did preview this first, and even though I've only seen it printed on A4 size-like paper, I find that it still held up just as good on my Kobo. Surprisingly, even though I have flipped through the physical book before, it wasn't until a few days later, while charging the Kobo, I started to read some of it on the computer and found out that there were actually a few coloured pages. And with someone recently giving me an old iPad, I have been beside myself. While I wouldn't read a book on a device without e-ink, I do find myself occasionally reading comics on the computer. The iPad's dimensions and screen resolution are just perfect for this, especially when colour is involved. The manga was first published in 1989 in the Japanese Young magazine and later released as a standalone in 1991. Masamune Shiro wanted the title Ghost in the Shell, but finally conceded to call it Mobile Armored Riot Police, subtitled The Ghost in the Shell. It wasn't until 1995 that an English translation would be released, thanks to Studio Proteus and Dark Horse Comics. Even though I haven't read many manga, I do know I like this style. If you're not a fan of manga, I doubt you would like this one, but then you probably don't like comics, or are at least picky with them to start with. That's cool. You can get a preview off Kobo and know for yourself. It's obviously busting with onomatopoeia and action lines. There are the common exaggerated expressions that are associated with manga and anime within, but I like this when well done. And there is a bit of comedy, both subtle and not so. I like the technobabble, which does not over-explain things, but gives a believability overview on how the tech works. The pacing is quite good. The only complaint I have was at the end of one of the chapters. They've been building up sadness and regret for the death of a character, and he's only been seen in a few frames. It was so well done that you care for him and understand how the others are feeling. But it is then ruined by a measly strip at the bottom, comically drawn with jokes. This pulled me out of an "oh my god" moment to, oh, this is just a comic. And I really don't care about this guy. I mean, comic book deaths, guys. I can't say for sure, but this may have been deliberate. The start of the preceding chapter has a more serious mood and gives a look into more of the technological magic in this world. So maybe this was just a break for the reader, or even the artist, before moving on. There is Major, Batao, Tugosa, Ishikawa, Saito, and Boma forming the main operating team. They have obviously been mercs at this time, and after following their good deeds, good, Aramaki has finally been able to recruit them, with, of course, the bribe of money and equipment. This makes for the historical start of Section 9, an International Hostage Rescue Unit. The characters are quite fleshed out, with their own comical quirks and serious life worries. Major fits the role of what is needed for the situation. She's not afraid to party, she'll let the team play up while off duty. But when there is work, everyone is pulled in by her tight lead, and multitasking her unit is fluid to her. Her trust in the team and their abilities are shown through this. Her adaptability also shows with her cunning and ability to quickly think through problematic events to find the correct action required, mostly. Usually unless caught off guard, she is always a step ahead. Her hot-headedness does falter sometimes, especially if she believes she's been taken for a ride. But overall, her appearance is cool and collective. Bateau follows with this cool collectiveness, although he doesn't shy from a jest here or there. He uses these sometimes to show what may be sensitive topics for the other characters. Some might say he's just a dick. He does have a sentimental side shown by him favouring one Fujikoma over the rest, despite the non-individualism designed for them. He even goes to the hassle of providing it with natural oil. This has no benefits, except somehow feels better to them. He loves his guns and is waiting for any chance to use them. Togosa comes from a cop background. He is obviously the odd duck of the group, a sort of trainee special ops. He has little cyberization and was never part of any military. And he has a family. This also enforces the idea that Major believes in the diversity of the team to give it success in an op, not its specialization. Ishikawa is the techie and info gatherer of the group. After missions, it is not unusual for him to be seen going over how the team performed and how they could improve. Saito was an ex-sniper, and his potential isn't used until Ghost in the Shell 1.5 comic. Little is given on him in the manga, except while off duty he appears to always be sleeping. Boma is given little more time in this manga, but like Saito, he seems just like another member on the Section 9 books. He does save the day at least once. He's a little bit like Bateau, big and burly, and when his expressions are exaggerated, unless I know who's in the scene sometimes, I mistake him for Bateau. Aramaki looks like the nickname they give him, Ape Face, and acts like any secret agent boss might be expected to in the current movies today. He obviously holds the team high, going far lengths to trap them into becoming Section 9, and shows a lot of care for them. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a conspiracy theory out there that he's designed Section 9 for himself, and what his secret intent is, that they are important tools for him to read it. And of course, who the f*** is this guy? I know it's not Togosa, he's over here. What the? There are a few stories over the span of 11 chapters. They present a look to a possible future. Almost said near future there. What was that? Optic camo? 2902, that means in the year 2029? Okay, but the comic was published in 1989, so a bit like Star Trek. Technology and overpopulation has skyrocketed. You get the feeling like no one gives a shit about nobody unless they have connections. It reminds me a bit of 2000 AD, and this is probably the best way to describe it, an in-between moment of now and before megacities. A lot of people in high places have gotten there through questionable means. Backstabbing seems to be common and almost acceptable as long as nobody leads it back to you and can prove it. There are constant secret handshakes between the governments, the corporations, the criminal entities, and even the sections themselves. This really sets up a spy espionage feel to the manga. Of course Section 9 is clean, but I believe mostly because it's new.
But you're not new, are you, Aramaki? You ancient fossil. What the hell's your story?
In this world, the human body can be completely replaced, except for the brain. But then, even that has a huge question mark over it, as ghost dubbing has become as controversial as stem cell and cloning research is today. As you could guess, this is where the title makes sense. The ghost in the shell is what some may call consciousness, and others the soul or spirit. This is basically the last part of what the law needs to classify you as human. Mod your brain too much and lose this detectable ghost line, and you no longer have any human rights. Many people have at least made cyberized improvements to their brain, and all of Section 9 have done this. But then this opens up the gate to hackers, and this is the next point of focus. What are the ethics of even accessing someone's brain, thoughts, let alone ghost hacking? Robotics and AI are at their next peak, and the ghost has obviously become the separation line between them and human intelligence. This is less explored, but the constant reminder of an AI upraising seems to be on the back of everyone's mind. Though it feels if this was likely to happen, only disgruntled AI would really kick up a stink. I believe if AI in this world became sentient, it would probably continue its main function, with a few noticeable quirks. That is, as long as it thought it wouldn't become obsolete and be burnt. Seeming as people, especially those with the cash, replace their robots as fast or faster than kids with their mobile phones these days, it wouldn't be long. The technology is constantly being evolved, and backwards compatibility isn't a priority for the companies that make and sell this tech. Diversity, and especially that of evolution and survival of the fittest, is probably the one idea that this manga tries hard to hammer home, that everything has its pros and cons, and that being specialized means becoming solid and stationary, easy to be smashed by the hammer of fate. While diversity is like a fluid, moving out of the way of the hammer, and able to adapt to any shape a situation could bring. I like this manga, and Like the movie, I give it a must-see. I mean a read. 4 out of 5. Like the movie, I know this is not for some, but in a different way. This is full of action and barely a dull moment. The philosophy is present, but can be glossed over if the reader is not interested. By not for all is I know a few people who don't like the style of manga and will utterly refuse to read them. But like I said at the start, at least give it a flip through. And if you like it, get a copy. Yes, if you're wondering, the answer is second favorite manga.